talk about the Ebola crisis and weigh in with his perspective, our good friend, radio talk show host, and Boston Herald columnist Howie Carr, who Skypes in today from New England. Howie, it is good to have you here. Governor Cuomo caving into White House pressure. Do you think Governor Christie might do the same?
I think it looks like that's the direction he's heading in as well. I was listening to that woman. It's a good thing we didn't have high-powered civil rights lawyers back 100 years ago, where all these people that had tuberculosis and were quarantined at Ellis Island might have gotten out into the general population. I mean, the stories in the paper just cracked me up this morning. The Obama administration claiming that the decision by Governors Christie and Cuomo not to allow these people to come back into the general public without going through a quarantine, it's kind of humorous. I mean, they say the Obama people are saying it's not grounded in science. I mean, this is the administration whose CDC director told us 2 or 3 weeks ago that if you don't have Ebola, you can go on a bus because you can't get Ebola on a bus. But if you do have Ebola, you shouldn't go on a bus because you can pass Ebola on the bus. And now they're criticizing two elected officials for not knowing what they're talking about.
Howie, the nurse herself says that the quarantine conditions are really quite inhumane. However, the facts about Ebola are also pretty stark. We know that
she gave an interview, Francesca. How inhumane can they be?
Well, let's look at some of the facts here, Howie. We know that she's with Doctors Without Borders, and 16 doctors and nurses within that have gotten the disease, and of those, 9 are now dead. We know the disease incubates without symptoms around 14 to 21 days. So unless you're quarantined, you could be transmitting the disease, even if you just become slightly symptomatic. So my question for you is, what would you say to people that say, well, aren't the governors just looking out for their people with this?
That's what I would say. I'm disappointed in Governor Cuomo for backing down, and again, it looks like Governor Christie is going to back down as well. I thought they were on the right track. Look, they didn't make this decision overnight. Even the New York Times, a pro-Obama sheet, says today that Christie and Cuomo started developing this plan to quarantine these people coming back from West Africa last Tuesday. This wasn't something they did overnight. They thought this thing through, and you know, I mean, think of all the work it took to trace back where that doctor from Harlem who went to the bowling alley in Brooklyn. It took like a massive law enforcement effort to track down where he was, even to the meatball shop and which subway lines he rode on in New York City. I mean, they were just stunned at the idea of having to do this over and over and over again. And now, this morning, there's a story that some 5-year-old kid up in the Bronx who just got back from West Africa has now come down with Ebola-like symptoms, and they've got him quarantined in Bellevue in Manhattan.
Less than a minute remains. Mindful of the news of that 5-year-old, mindful of the president leaning on Governor Cuomo and others to lift any type of quarantine, mindful that there is no travel ban nor federal quarantine. Is Mr. Obama just playing political correctness here?
Yeah, exactly, JD. I couldn't agree with you more. I mean, it's like public health is taking a back seat to political correctness. I was wondering, watching the football game from London yesterday, if the British authorities thought about quarantining the Falcons and the Lions when they came in, because you know we have more Ebola cases than anywhere outside of Africa, as far as I can tell.
Point well taken, and given what happened to the Falcons, maybe some fans up in Atlanta would agree to have them quarantined right now. Tell you what, Howie, there's some more serious topics to get to with you. We're going to step aside right now, but return more with our friend Howie Carr following this time out.